Welcome to the video about the full details how to create a perfect front-end project from scratch with the full details. In this video, I'm gonna share you all the specific topics you should know, and you can have a schedule for yourself, go research about them. And if you couldn't understand some meanings and also you need me to explain a little bit more about some of these topics, definitely write a comment here, and I will be glad to share you more ideas. So let's quickly jump into the topic. So here in the project, we have a package.json, and here in generally, you will have some scripts, you will have the dependency, dev dependency, and peer dependency, and some more other comments regarding the project. So here you will notice that, for example, this application, what's the name, what's the version, and so on. You should notice that before going to interview for a developer, you should definitely know the CICD, and this version is really important for the CICD. Let me also explain a little bit about that. You can search more if you want. I can explain a little bit more in another video. You will have a develop branch that the developers merge a branch into develop, and then after that they gonna push whatever that gonna release in that version to the staging or testing branch, and then after creating a new version, you're gonna upgrade this package.json version here, and then you go to production. For example, we're gonna start a project from 001, then go to 210 something. After we're gonna have a pre-release version, we're gonna update it to 1, and again then going forward. So this is how it's working. For example, for React, now the version is 19.01 and something like that. So this is the version. You should know about that in the software. So in a script, we will have a dev or a start that is gonna run the application. What is with? What is webpack? You should know that. You know, we have a lot of JS and CSS codes, and based on their sizes, we didn't have webpack, for example, 5 or 6 years ago, and in that time we should combine the JS code in a external tools, and then combine the CSS code in the external tool, then import all of them by writing code into the main HTML file. But after we could have the webpack, we could have this minifying, combining the whole JS code, the whole CSS code with webpack. And recently we have Vite by Evanyu, and Vite also. Definitely search for webpack Vite, because you definitely need to know about them. Vite is gonna, when you are changing one line of the code, it's not rebuilding the whole project. It's gonna refresh the page very fast. This is the most critical point about this Vite. So here you can have the build version. When you are doing the CICD, during the CICD, the application is gonna be built, and all the JS CSS files is gonna be minified, and you will push it to production. Also, what's the lint? We have an eslint, and here you will see some eslint rules that, for example, for if you are using React and you are having some unused value, you want to warn or off the errors, or you want to have the errors. So here you can manipulate what's the rules based on the project, based on the team you are working on that. And definitely you should know the structure, the simplest structure of this eslint. Also, you should know about prettier. What prettier is doing. It's gonna based on, let me search for prettier. Yeah, there you go. So at the end of the lines, you see here, you're gonna have the comma, or at the, you don't need this comma. If I remove and I save it, it's gonna immediately add comma because we have this trailing comma all. The print width, for example, if I add something here and the line is 100, 100 is the length of this line. If I write down more and click on save, it's gonna break that, and we have the semicolon or quotation, single quotation, or the width here. You see it's 2 pixel, or we have the type of the saving file. You should know the basic stuff about this, and this is my favorite type of the prettier configuration, but you should know the prettier. And also we have dependency. What's the difference between dependency and dev dependency? This is something important that a lot of developers don't know actually. So the repositories that we need them in production version goes to dependency. The other ones that only we need them for typing, for eslint, for prettier, only for development, we use them in dev dependency. You see all of the types are here, TypeScript are here. We don't need TypeScript in the final JS going to production. And also for the eslint, for the prettier, for the width, we all of them need it in dev dependency. So this is the package.json, everything you should know about that. So I'm gonna write you down here the package.json, and also you should know about versioning, definitely CICD, and also with slash webpack and eslint, prettier. You should know also about huskey. Huskey is something that when you are writing the code and finish it, git add, git commit, before you want to push, you need to have the huskey to do a hook to pre-commit and then run eslint prettier before committing and pushing your project. And also definitely you should know about the git. And what else? Also regarding this TypeScript, so we have some configurations here that most of the time you shouldn't touch them, but sometimes you need to have including something, or regarding the build you want to change some configuration where it's gonna be the destination folder and so on. And let's say TypeScript, you should know about the configuration. And also for the width also we have some configuration here. You will notice that if I want to add a new alias to the repository, instead of writing down srcs / something, I'm gonna use @ sign. So you should definitely know about the width configurations also here. Okay, let's jump into the code base. What's gonna be the first file is gonna run? The name of the file should be main or app. So here inside the main file, you will notice that there is a StrictMode. What's this StrictMode? It's important. You should know about that. It's gonna create in StrictMode.js and not StrictMode.js. You will have a lot of errors in StrictMode. Why you will see a lot of errors? Because, for example, if you define a variable, then again define it in other place, in the pure JS it's not gonna show error, but in a strict mode you will see a lot of error. And in pure JS you will see something like use strict or strict at the top of the JS file. It's gonna automatically turn the strict mode in JS on. So you should know about that. Go for it, search for it. If you want, ask me to create a video for that. And then let's go to app. And as you see inside the main component, you should have your providers. What's gonna be the providers? The React query provider, toaster provider, the Redux provider, all of them should be here. Okay, let's go to our project and let's talk about a little bit about React query, because it's really important. So here I have an API, and first let me talk about the folder instruction. So in a, let me structure of the folders. So for the structure of folders, you can have different type of structures. Inside the src you can go modular. You will have a module core, then module race and other modules, and then inside of that you can have the different components, different hooks, apis, so on inside that module. Or you can have a flat, for example, you can move all of them on the top below the src, and if you go to src apis, then for example core apis, race apis and other things, they both working, but I love this structure mostly. So let's say we will name the modules. Below each module we're gonna have apis, and also we're gonna have components, constants, we're gonna talk about all of them, context, or also hooks and helpers, and also types. So you can add, for example, assets for your images here, or mocks for your some mock data for your test, and also you can have a test here. So you can have everything like this. So let's go through the APIs. First of all, consider we have a fetch raise API that I want to introduce it in another video, because I want to talk about axios and this is super important. So let's go through the YouTube and code. There you go. So axios API client, create API client, axios. Okay, so first of all, in your project you will have a server that you will have a same authentication. You should have the same headers your server is asking you, for example, about the location, about the device info and so on. So you should have a centralized class from axios. So you should know the, let me write it down, you should know the axios here. What is important to know about axios? After you go with axios creator, you should know what's the interceptors. Interceptors is gonna give you this permission to handle, to create some common helper methods for the request and for the response. You see, request and for the response. I'm gonna show you the very simple request. Auth interceptor, what's gonna do with auth interceptor? It's gonna get the token from local storage and then inside the configs from your request. Inside the headers in authorization, it's gonna add the bearer token and then return the configurations again. So here you can easily understand that this auth interceptor is gonna manipulate the headers of your request before submitting that. So let's talk about interceptors. You should search a little bit more. And also what else, for example, I want to add a content type like JSON or whatever I need for that API. If I'm submitting some files, it cannot be JSON. The file is type, the type is blob, and you should change the content type based on what your server is asking you. And also for response, we can always here have a res, and then you can always return res.data, but sometimes you should, it's better to have the response because there will be some problems. I'm gonna talk about them. You can search a little bit about interceptors. If you need me, I can create a video for that. Let's talk about the second parameters of this response. This is error handler interceptors. Whenever error is raising, it's gonna get the configuration. Based on that configuration, it's gonna check that, okay, the error is 401. It means your token is expired. So you should refresh your token. What is refresh token? you should search for it. Definitely go with JWT, search what's JWT about the bearer token, and also about the refresh token. So generally, refresh token is something that you shouldn't ask the username password or save the username password for yourself. Plus, server is sending you a token, will send you another token to use for refresh token. At the another time, you see that the token expired, you're gonna send the expired token and the refresh token. It's gonna give you a new refresh token, new bearer token, and you're gonna save them. So here, what we are doing, we are creating a new axios after calling API of refresh token, getting some new tokens, and then sending those access tokens there. So if you want, I can give you more data about this refresh token, this JWT, and so on. But by the way, right now we have ChatGPT and you can ask a lot of questions there, but I'm gonna focus on mostly on the main topic. So after you create this API client with your axios and then defining, for example, for the get, we have the endpoint data options and so on. So I just want to have the same style for all of them and don't expose any other things. So I just manipulate a little bit this method to have a code style I wanted. So here we have for example, API slash v2 slash products and API v2 slash articles. So we should have different API clients. One is gonna be the, for example, product API client, another will be car API clients, blog API clients, and so on. And we're gonna talk about the next step, how you should call that API. So let's get back to this file. Consider that we have the axios here, we have this API here, and as you notice, I'm using React query for calling this API. I'm gonna give you some hints about why definitely we should use React query for calling API. First of all, using React query, it's gonna wrap this fetch raise API with try cache. Second, you will have, based on this data it's gonna giving you, you will have I want to check about the return. You will have the data that is fetching about that. You can have the error, and you don't need to create 3 different user states and then manipulate them here. So you will have the is fetching error without adding try cache and so on here. Also, you can definitely define the placeholder data. Also, you can have a configuration here, and inside that configs, you're gonna add when is gonna be the cache time. So you will have the also cache here. So I'm gonna give you the default, and also you can have a default configuration for the whole queries. Is it gonna, after one time is failing, should it try again? We can say okay, two more time try. And also if user goes to other tab, then come back, so you want to refetch, or if the internet connection is disconnected then connected, you want to refetch, or if user goes to other components, not other page, and your component dismount, again when it's mounted you want to refetch. And also stall time, cache time. This stall time, cache time is super important, and you will have all of these things for calling API using React query, and it's gonna help you a lot. So let's get back here. After you have the React query, you should know about the cache, about the error handler, and also let's go to filters. We're gonna talk about the filters a little bit more. So first of all, you want to share some states between different components. You have a lot of options: Redux, Zustand, jotai, and so on. So the good perspective is gonna be you should separate client side state and backend and API states. What is gonna be the best option? Zustan is okay, Jota is okay, Redux is okay, but Redux is not atomic. It's gonna create a big object for you, and it's gonna use a lot of RAM. Jota is very simple, very handy, and it's using a lot. And also Zustan is a standard, is atomic design, and just like Jota, very light and handy. So what I'm doing, consider you have some filters. You don't want to pass these filters from the filters section to the API sections, and then when you have different type of components, consider that here inside the race cards here. Consider that, for example, I have the state of race filters state, and if I want to have all of them in race filters, in race calls, in API calling, I should define the filters state here and set filters and use state. Consider something like this, for example, search keyword is empty. You should pass this one to here, and also the children of this computer. This is called props drilling, and it's not a good practice. If you want to move the place of your components, you will have a lot of problems. So definitely you should define your states with jotai when you want to share them between more than one component. And share means two components at least. And then here you will see that I use the state in race filters. Also, when I want to create a hook to using React query to return some data, some states regarding calling these APIs, I'm using easily these race filters and passing them to the API, and then easily catching that. So this query key is also important. For example, here I can write down race, but what's gonna happen if the filters is changing? Because this query key is not changing and it's caching by this query key, you will see the user is changing the filters, nothing is changing. So you should definitely include the filters as an object, array, whatever it is, inside the query keys. And also for the first part, you should create a centralized place for your constants to manage them in one place. So here you will notice that, okay, I have a query keys inside the list, races we have list. For example, I have a user, and here I can have a bear token and also refresh token, and what's the user authentication data, and a lot of them. I can create the query keys here, then call the key inside the React query using this query key as a first parameter. So we talk about cache, error handling, states, and we talked about jotai, atomic plus share state between components. So what, and also managing queries. What else we're gonna talk about that? Let's go through, and then let's check what other components we have. So here we have this some filters I generated this codes to change some value of some filters. What else you need to know? Here you will see a query search change, and you will notice that I'm creating a debounce here with 500 milliseconds. What is this debounce is doing? Consider this section. User is typing 123 123, and when he's doing that, I shouldn't refetch the data. Now I should refetch the data, and then after user type stop, I should refresh the data. If for every second user is changing something, I run the API calling, then millions of API waste API rendering is gonna happen, and that's not what we want. So we call it as debounce, and you should know it definitely about the debounce. And what else here? Also, let's check what else we gonna also regarding this. Here you notice that we added tailwind, and inside the tailwind we imported inside the width, and tailwind, especially the new version, is much lighter than other version, and you can have a centralized place to customize your codes. And also the thing is, after we are using AI more than before, this tailwind is much easier for the AI to create some CSS things for you, and you can easily copy the JSX into your project and it's working. So you should know about the tailwind also. And let me take a look to see what else we got. Regarding for example, you are in an interview and you have some you have a challenge test or something. Definitely you should make sure that you are rendering the isLoading, let's say rendering edge cases like isRendering, and also no data found. You see here, when it's fetching, we should show a loader. When there is error, when there is error, you should show that error message. When there is no data, you should show that no data could find. So you should definitely rendering these edge cases in your front-end application. Make sure to search a little bit about what's the good practices for the loader and so on. You can easily have a simple loading items or no data found, try to adjust your filters and so on. So what else we have here that I can explain you? Regarding the types, I'm mostly fan of creating all the important types in one file. I mean all the, for example, types regarding this module to one file, and also regarding the components. Let's go through some component that have some parameters. I want to, yes, for example here, when you have some props, you can define the props like this, and if you want to go with type or you go with interface, and there is no huge difference. If somebody is reviewing your code and saying type or use type instead of interface and so on, just follow. This is, there is not big deal between them. And also, if you, for example, if you want to check if something is wrong, then show null, or you want to send an empty string. These are something that like junior developer mostly focus on that. I'm mostly fan of to sending empty fragment, because the final type that is gonna check by this component is gonna be this. But if you send null, the final type is gonna be JSX element or not. That will produce some problems in some cases, but Again, this is not something important. You should just let it go and don't focus on that. Okay, let's jump into this bigger project. Oh, before that, for the components, definitely you should have a UI kit, and also you should have your other templates. UI kit is the smallest possible component in your project, and the templates is gonna be the bigger. For example, the whole filters is gonna be templates, the button, those things is gonna be UI kit. So what we have also inside the cons, whatever is as a for example number, hardcode number, the zoom level of map, and so on, all of them should be as a constant. So here we're gonna create some hooks based on the context of the atoms we created. And here when this is a really important part of the code that most of the developers not following. The thing is, when you have, for example, this line of the code, if this block of the code inside to any line of the code, you will see these lines of the code. If they are doing some meaningful goal, and it's gonna take a while for other developers to come here and understand what are they doing, just cut all of them, extract them to the helper method, and name it something that can be easily understood by other developers. Also here you will see some hooks, and there is nothing special about the other things in this project. I'm gonna close that and then jump to this project. So I want to talk a little bit more about the UI kit. So let me go through different things and tell you if I notice something important. Okay, so here is very critical point. So inside the project, for example, you see this button. When I'm developing a button in UIKit, first you should take over the hover, you should take over the pressed, and take over the outline. You see this tab, this is outline. You should definitely take care about these states. So I will write it down for you. Hover, pressed, outline. So let me give you some idea how I handle them here. For example, here, for example, inside the SAS, you can have the hover, and inside whenever user hover the mouse on this element, we're gonna change the color of the SVG files. And also we should also handle the disabled, and also we should handle let me search a little bit about the active or pressed. Yes, active, whenever you are selecting a component, it's gonna be active. Active means focused, and also you have focus, so active is gonna be pressed. So we can say active, it's gonna be pressed, focused, outline, disabled. You should know about all of these states, how the CSS is changing based on that, and you should definitely go through that. And as you see, we have a lot of different active, hover, those things inside this project. What else? Oh, okay. I want to talk about a really important topic. Let me see. Is 34. Okay. So you inside your application, you will have a lot of drop downs. So if the space from the button is not enough, it should definitely open from top. Also for the tooltip, it should act same. So the best app for covering that, the best library, the best package covering that is this floating UI. So with this floating UI, you can say that I want to flip when the top is not enough space at the top. I want to open it from the down, or I want to shift it. I want to set some arrow and offset and something like this. So let me tell you. So definitely make sure to search for useFloating, and I'm gonna write the floating UI up here. So for the tooltip drop down, for the context menu, for all of them, you should have this floating UI. And also regarding the modals. So for the modals, also you should definitely create portal. So what a portal is doing, consider you want to open a model and you are inside this component that is handling this data around here, and the whole of these components could be draggable. If I open a model, create a model code base here, then if user click on model will be draggable because the parent is draggable. So we should create a model outside the whole body. This is the body outside this iframe, outside the div that id is root. It's gonna create this createPortal is gonna create a place that I can render my codes there. Then it's gonna be global. So definitely make sure to use this createPortal. And also most of the time you think that when is gonna be the place, a good place for me to render my codes. I mean, let me I consider I have a lot of models when I should render them. The point is you should render. I guess I should go to layout. Yes, I should render all of my codes into, consider this is my HTML body, this is Next.js app, and I have some providers here. I should have all of my models inside the portals. If I go to portals, I will see login model, image model, confirm model, cars model. So make sure to put models inside portals in app.tsx. This is really important because it's gonna render only once. So let's get back to model. I want to give you more ideas what you should know when you're developing front end. So I talk about this confirm model. Again, it's a model and it should use the createPortal. And again, for the context menu, when you right click, you want to open something, you should use the floating UI. Oh, perfect. And regarding the form, definitely I highly suggest you to go with React Hook form. I'm gonna create another video for this purpose. If you want, I can give you a really good idea how you can build an amazing extendable form that you can easily handle everything inside. And also regarding the icons, if you have some custom icons, don't import SVG into the project. You should definitely only export the path, the whatever it's inside the SVG. You should export them by default, and then inside the icon you should have a SVG that definitely you are manipulating the color, the height, the width, the class name. You can inject them to the SVG and you can read this path from the mapping key that you have. So I will write down here to how to import icons, SVG icons, only copy pass into constant component. And what else? Oh, for image. For image, we have a really important trick I should tell you. You shouldn't let the image to be there and start to loading pixel by pixel. You see some of the images is showing like this. You should wait for the image to be finished. In the meanwhile you are waiting, you should show a skeleton. If you don't know a skeleton is gonna be some shadows is coming and then going, and it's filling you some is loading feeling. And then after image fully render, that here unload image, we should have a transition to a smoothly showing that they are coming to the page. Transition, this is the transition I like to, it's gonna like fading smoothly after it's fully rendered. So it's gonna feel this to user that okay, this site doesn't look so harsh, doesn't jump the pictures, doesn't show the pictures like this. And this is really important to use this component. So I create another video, and also I will share the repo to all of this code base I'm showing you if you want to use. And also regarding your text and labels, you should make sure that you are using 3 dots instead of showing a text broken and so on. So you should definitely go with text overflow ellipses. I will write it down. These are the things that when you have knowledge or you don't have knowledge, the final code that you are testing is gonna different. So definitely make sure to know all of them. What we have here, pop over radio buttons, easy creating some radio. Select. Okay, in select there is a really critical point you should know. When we have a list of a lot of items here, tan stack React virtualization, so you should know that you shouldn't render, for example, 1000 options into that text area, into that select. What you should do, you should use virtualization, and with that virtualization you will say that each row has, for example, 20 pixel height, and then with rows get virtualized.map you can render them and react. And this virtualization is add some padding on the top and bottom. It's kind of your scrolling, but it's not rendering the other DOMs. So your DOM is gonna be very light. So you should know about your DOM and being very light during the process. So what else? We have a skeleton. For the skeleton, I highly suggest you to go with React loading a skeleton. This is the package, I like it. And also for the sliders, definitely go with Sweeper. Sweeper has a lot of optimization for the mobile, for the smooth when dragging the rope and so on. We have some okay tables, also really important how you manage your table. And also for the toast, definitely go with React Toastify. And if you don't know toast, it's something pop up to show you some information, some message about if that API runs completely and so on. And also definitely make sure to manage Z indexes in your project. If this is the type that I like, this is really standard. For the modal overlay, that is gonna be the behind, it should be 100. For the modal, it should be on forward. For popover inside model, context menu or select, it should be more, and on tooltip it should be on top of everything. So let me also give you some ideas about this packages I have here. Okay, also you should know about the storybook. You go for it, create a storybook for your project, and when you're developing a component, create a storybook for that, because the product owner, the tester, yourself, all of them can use that. It's gonna help you debugging the code more easily. I talk about prettier lint ts, and on regarding the test, I would say that you should definitely know the v-test and also the playwright. And we talk about the Husky also, floating UI, React hook form, React query, we talk about them. Okay, this cool is good for the CK editor. I mean, consider you want to have an editor, you want to let the user to add bold, italic, underline, and so on. So you can easily use that. Let's get back to package.json, sweeper, and yup. And for validations, I'm gonna write it beside the React hook form. You should use yup or other packages that you can easily check the validations. If it's a string number, the length of array more than this, that send this error, and so on. And also we have some dev dependency, as if you notice inside dev dependency, a storybook, something for development like eslint and the other things. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have some question about any of the things inside the description. I will share you this list plus the link to that repo that I was showing you, the fully best practice codes that you can follow. Thank you.